I'm Virginia Harris. I want to welcome everyone to the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee's commemoration of his birthday and our virtual rally. I am a longtime activist here in Los Angeles, Southern California specifically. I was a member of the Southern California chapter of the Black Panther Party. Actually, I was a member of the cadre that requested from the Panther Central headquarters to reopen the Southern California chapter. In 1976, I had the opportunity to travel to Cuba, and by a stroke of, I don't know, fate, which I don't know about all that, but I was able to meet Huey Newton and pitched him the idea of reopening the chapter. And in 1977, we reopened the Southern California chapter. Our program is full today. We have a lot of distinguished, illustrious guests who I can't wait for you all to hear from. And we were gonna have someone come on to do libations. However, for some reason, she couldn't get on the link. And then after so many tries, they locked her out. So she can't even get back into her computer. So we're just gonna move on with the program. So I want to introduce my co-host, who is Kameron Hurt. And Kameron, let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you so much, Virginia. And thank you everyone for joining us. This is gonna be a really exciting event. My name is Kameron Hurt. I'm a community organizer. I've been in it for a few years now. And I work with the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee. I've done work with Black August Los Angeles. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm very happy to be here, surrounded by the amazing group of panelists, as well as all these attendees. There's a lot of energy in the chat. People are excited to get started. So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee, which was founded in 2019. As we decided, it was time to make Ruchell a household name again, to start to bring the consciousness of his story and the tragedy of a person spending 16 to 83, just about all of that time in prison. Absolutely ridiculous. And all of our speakers are going to give a chunk of what they've seen, what they've observed. And so I won't tell too much of the story now because I'm sure many of the viewers already know things and the panelists will do a great job of that. So I do want to say, please, it's not too late to share this on social media. If people would like to register, they can absolutely still use the same registration link that you used, bit.ly/Ruchell83. So we want everybody possible to join us right here on Zoom because it's just the easiest way to see the entire program. So please feel free to share that, put it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you're at, because we're only getting started now. So we can still invite our friends and good people to join us. So I do want to as well pass it right back to Virginia just to get our program started.
Okay, I'm just going to, at this moment, wish Ruchell Magee a happy birthday. His birthday was actually the 17th of March, which is one of the reasons why we decided to have this virtual rally to commemorate his birthday and to raise him up, as Kameron said, to hopefully have more people be involved in the effort to get him free. So I want to say to Ruchell, Ruchell, it's your birthday. Unfortunately, we can't party like it's your birthday, but we're going to organize because it's your birthday and we're going to get you out and we're going to work to get all political prisoners free. So happy birthday, Ruchell Magee. Okay. I was trying to do 50 Cent, but you see, I'm not I'm not all equipped to do 50 Cent. So that was my attempt. So I'm going to go right into our first speaker, who is Jalil Muntaqim. Jalil is a veteran of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, co-founder of the National Jericho Movement and co-organizer of the Spirit of Mandela International Tribunal, Citizen Action Committee organizer and author of We Are Our Own Liberators and Escaping the Prism, Fade to Black. After more than 48 years behind bars, numerous parole denials, Jalil was finally released in October 2020. He's here to share with us Ruchell Magee's birthday and also some of his experience. Brother Jalil.
Thank you, sister. Assalamu alaikum, paz, peace, habagani, hafadea, bonjour. Let me see, what else? Guten Tag, shalom. Whatever is your language, whatever your part of the world that you come from, I greet you in peace and solidarity. And as Sister Virginia said, I'm Jalil Muntaqim. I want to start this off with a little story, a story that I've had, an intimate story, what I have with Comrade Ruchell Magee. In 1975, I was convicted in California, convicted in New York for the killing of 2 police officers. And as a result of that, and having had been arrested originally in San Francisco on August 28, 1971, I was returned back to San Quentin. And when I was returned back to San Quentin after the New York conviction, I was housed in the Adjustment Center. As many of you know, Ruchell spent many years in the Adjustment Center, along with San Quentin 6 and many of our other comrades, even Geronimo Jijaja. And so while I was sent there, I was placed in a cell between Ruchell Magee and Charlie Manson, right, with San Quentin 6 on the same tier. It was on the first floor of the Adjustment Center. During the time of getting to learn and know each other, I found Ruchell to be very humorous, right? He's a joker in his own, when he's in his relaxed state and he always reflects on his history, on his growing up in Louisiana and what all that meant to him. But at any rate, at one day during mail call, I received a letter from a beloved ancestor sister named Yuri Kochiyama. At the time, Yuri was a member, organizer of the National Committee in Defense of Political Prisoners, which was an organization that was put together in support of the Panther 21 case. And what she did, she had a newsletter. So she sent me a copy of the newsletter. And in that newsletter, it talked about the need for us to take our struggle to the United Nations, something that El-Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, often spoke about, right? And so when I read this, I said, wow, this is a good idea. Maybe we should think about how we can put this thing together. And so what I did, I wrote back to Yuri and asked her, said, well, how are we going to move forward? And I never got a response back. Now, that does not mean that she may not have responded or that my letter did not get out, because during that period of time, particularly in San Quentin, often our letters did not get out of the prison, out of the facility, or we did not receive letters. And so what I did, I drafted an outline for the possibility of petitioning for the United Nations on the existence of political prisoners and the conditions of prisons. And so when I dropped that outline together, drafted an outline, I passed it to Ruchell. I said, hey Ru, what do you think about this, man? What do you think? Do you think this is something that's plausible? Do you think it's something that we can really work on? And he looked at it and he studied it and he held on to it for about a day. He didn't say anything. Then I said, Ru, knocked on the wall next to him. I said, hey Ru, what's that, man? You checked out what I wrote? He said, yo, bro. He said, this is powerful. This is good. But I did some tweaking on it. As some of you know, Ruchell is very involved with the law. And unknown to me, because I didn't know too much about the law, he added some legal quotes, some legal issues on it, and really perfected it. And then he told me, he said, listen, send it upstairs to Geronimo and the brothers upstairs. We also had Russell Little was up there, and a couple other people from the SLA was up there. And so I said, okay, cool. So I did that. And I sent it up there, and they checked it, reviewed it, and sent it back to me. And then what I did, then sent it out to the streets. And that was the beginning of the first U.S. prisoners petition campaign to the United Nations. The only petition campaign that was sponsored by prisoners and actually was heard and recorded at the United Nations, the very first. That was it took me 2 years from 1975 to 1977 to make that happen. And it was a good job. And it was a good job because Ruchell put his stank to it, right? He put his influence on it and made it even much more consistent to what we were trying to achieve, right? By adding the little bit of law that I didn't know that he knew extensively. And that's what Ruchell is. Ruchell is scientist, right? He tries to look at things in in its minutiae, in its very smallest points, right? And get something out of, draw something out of it that will benefit himself and benefit others. Ruchell has been known in the prison system, particularly in California, as being a legal scholar, right? Some will dispute that idea or what it means by being a legal scholar, but in either case, he has helped many people in regards to the law, the issues of the law, and fighting to be released from prison. And that's one thing we should always recognize of Ruchell, his giving and his capacity to study. Now, another thing that's important for us to understand about Ruchell is this here. He should not be in prison, right? There are documents that indicate very specifically that he was not found guilty of the charges when he was charged for the incident that happened in Marin County. Right there, I've received, matter of fact, I have some documents here that were sent to me that indicate that there are jurors on his case that had asked the judge how come they didn't recognize the verdict of the jury. And so that is something that Ruchell has been arguing about continuously, right? And this is the reason why he has not been adamant about his innocence, even when he goes to the parole board. So that what makes our fight even much harder, knowing that he should not be in prison today. Okay, so I just wanted to share those few points, some ideas, my thinking based upon my experience with Ruchell. I think Ruchell is at the age that he is right now, as many of our own comrades, many of our political persons, like Sundiata Kohli, like Imam Jamil Alameen, we should be fighting diligently, right, without taking a breath, right, if necessary, and the fight to get them released from prison. With that said, I'd like to thank Kameron and the coalition for inviting me here to just give this little bit of information that I have, personal information that I hold close to my heart in regards to Ruchell Magee, Senke Magee. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Jalil. That was really moving and informative piece you just did, giving us a little background on Ruchell. Your point about freeing all political prisoners is exactly why we're here. That has to be our effort. That has to be what we're doing. People have been in prison 40, 50 years. Ruchell's been in prison 58 years, and way beyond the legal justification, because he's in prison because of kidnapping. And so he's certainly done more than enough time for that charge. But as you said, Comrade Jalil, he should not be there at all. On that note, I want to bring forward our next speaker. Our next speaker is someone who I have wanted to meet throughout my entire political career. And I'll say about her is that through her activism and scholarship over many decades, Angela Davis has been deeply involved in movements for social justice around the world. Her work as an educator, both at the university level and in the larger public sphere, has always emphasized the importance of building communities of struggle for economic, racial, and social and gender justice. She is the author of 11 books, including Abolition, Feminism Now, co-authored with Gina Dent, Erica Miners, and Beth Ritchie, and I hope I pronounced Erica's last name correctly, and a new edition of her autobiography, both of which were released in January. Having helped to popularize the notion of a prison industrial complex, she now urges her audiences to think seriously about the future possibility of a world without carceral systems, and to help forge a 21st century abolitionist movement. And with that, I'd like to bring forth Comrade Angela Davis.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Let me say that it is so inspiring to hear Jalil Muntaqim speak in defense of Ruchell. And I'm honored that I'm speaking after Jalil and before Jonathan Jackson Jr. Let me thank Kameron and Virginia and the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee for your phenomenal work in addressing what I think of as the most egregious example of carceral injustice of our time. I want to say happy birthday to my brother, but I cannot in good conscience wish you a happy birthday without recommitting, along with all the rest of you who are on this call, to the struggle to free you, my brother Ruchell. It is an abomination that Ruchell is behind bars. Some 67 or so years after he was first arrested in Louisiana, 58 years after his arrest in California, 52 years after the Marin County revolt, when San Quentin prison guards killed Jonathan Jackson, George's brother, James McLean, and William Christmas. And let us also not forget that the guards were responsible for the death of Judge Harold Haley. I love Ruchell because he is my brother, and we were co-defendants over 50 years ago. But I also want to emphasize that Ruchell has made inestimable contributions to the abolition movement. And let me tell you that in my own memory, Ruchell was the very first person who linked the prison system to the institution of slavery. And I really didn't understand it at the time. He understood over a half century ago what took many of us years to grasp. And that is what you might call the genealogical relation of slavery to the current prison industrial complex, and indeed to the whole carceral system. And so every time I see a new book on slavery and prison, whenever I recognize that the hallmark of this current era is the recognition of the way there was a failure to address the fact that we have been living the afterlife of slavery ever since its supposed abolition. Whenever I recognize these things, I think about Ruchell. And I remember that the very first time I heard about the notorious case Ruffin v. Commonwealth of Virginia and the notion of prisoners being, quote, slaves of the state, it was from Ruchell because of his legal research. And as Jalil said, precisely because of his phenomenal capacity to study. We need to free Ruchell not only because as a human being, he deserves to live the remainder of his life in this so-called free world, but also because as the longest held political prisoner in the country, and perhaps even in the world, he, like Leonard Peltier, like Mumia Abu-Jamal, and so many others, must be freed by the movement as a testament to the righteousness of our struggle for better and more just worlds for everyone. And so, happy birthday, my brother, we love you. Free Ruchell and all political prisoners.
Thank you, Sister Angela. It's a powerful presentation. I love hearing you speak. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much to Dr. Angela Davis and as well to Jalil Muntaqim for opening our program today. Next up, I would like to introduce, it's my great honor to introduce Jonathan Jackson. Jonathan Jackson is the son of Jonathan P. Jackson. He is an artist, a writer, and a scholar, and I'll let him tell you the rest.
Thank you, Cameron. That was an emotional and I think everyone can agree, very moving sentiment expressed by Angela. And I just want to thank her. Thank you, Angela. It's great to be here. I of course, am here to celebrate the birthday of my uncle Ruchell, but at the same time, as Angela indicated, it is a difficult celebration. But the reason I'm here, and Angela was the one who mentioned the event, and so I realize I'm a bit of a surprise last minute guest. So thank you to Cameron and the Coalition to Free Ruchell for making space for me. But in my short time today, I'm here on what I hope will be the beginning of a final push to advocate for the release of Ruchell Magee after all these years. And you know, our families, the Jackson family and the Magee family, as well as a few others in the movement, are from Louisiana. In fact, the Jacksons and the Magees, our ancestral homes are only 140 miles apart. They're from Franklinton, Louisiana, and we're from Bourdonnais-Ville, Louisiana. So we come from the home of Mother Sugar and King Cotton, as they say. And I think it's always important whenever we have the opportunity to historicize and draw parallel lines back to the specter that continues to haunt this country, the specter of slavery. And we know from all of the amazing studies and books that have been written over the past few decades that, starting with Ruchell, as Angela so eloquently expressed, that severe and lengthy punitive measures are directly linked back to 18th and 19th century slavery practices, where the price for rebellion was demonstrative punishment. So when we start to piece together the facts of the case and wondering why is Ruchell still behind bars after being eligible for parole for over 40 years? Why, when Ruchell has a full and complete network of support and assistance ready for him waiting in the outside world, is he still being denied parole year after year? And why, when he is clearly no longer a danger to society, is he still being held? We have to come to terms with that it is an irrational and historical reason. So while we are petitioning to Governor Newsom and others, I'm not sure that we can rest our hopes on benevolence and common sense. I think, as Cameron pointed out early on, that awareness is key, that we continue on the left to push, that we also recognize our shortcomings up to this point, and that we be honest about them, and that we ask ourselves the tough questions. Why? What could we have done more in the past 20 to 30 years to get him out? And once we answer those questions, we can work on fixing them and making this final push. So briefly, before I go, I want to talk about what I am doing now. I am beginning to assemble. This project came to me because somebody asked me about a definitive view of what happened on August 7th. And I did see that several people passed on. Claude Marks, thank you for passing on that link about the August 7th rebellion. But it did strike me in doing just some cursory research how there is no definitive account. Every account that I've read is fragmented or skewed, biased. And so for the first time in 50 years, I am beginning to assemble a family memoir of sorts. And I truly believe that if we can work together to make Ruchel's case understood and known exactly what happened on August 7th. And as you'll hear, as you heard Angela say, you know, Ruchell wasn't responsible for the killing of George Haley. But just reading public accounts, you wouldn't know that. If you asked a person on the street who was Jonathan Jackson, they may or may not know. More people know who George is, more people know who Angela is, but some of the people who are still being punished for those events, I believe strongly would be free today if more people knew about what was going on. So please do try to stay tuned as much as possible. I truly am going to work as hard as I can to get this project together, and it will be findable through this coalition, or you can, these days, you can just search. But once again, to conclude, I wish that I was giving Ruchell a hug instead of a salutation. I do hope to be in California relatively soon to see all the good people. And until then, keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please.
Yes, thank you so much, Jonathan Jackson, for joining us. We also look forward to the day where we can give Ruchell that hug, that big hug, which he 100% deserves. So, next up on our program, we are going to have Yasmeen Majid. Yasmeen is a Black Panther veteran and a part of the Black Panther Commemoration Committee, as well as the National Alumni Association of the Black Panther Party. So let's go ahead and bring up Yasmeen.
Greetings. Yes, I come representing the National Alumni Association of the Black Panther Party and also the Black Panther Party Commemoration Committee. The Black Panther Party Commemoration Committee, we hold a film festival every year, and we bring information on political prisoners. But in 1997, when Geronimo came home from prison, he came to New York and to greet Panthers. And while he was there, he was talking about political prisoners. And one of the political prisoners that I asked him about, because I hadn't been involved since my Panther days, is Ruchell. And I was surprised when he told me that he was still in prison. Then I joined and became a part of the Jericho movement. And this was Jericho 98. And Jericho 98, Ruchell, of course, his name was listed along with, at that time, about 20 Panthers. So this is over 24 years ago. And today, we still have 8 Panthers still in prison, but have been successful in freeing or Panthers coming home. It's been 11. I'd like to give you the names of the Panthers that are still behind the bars, that are still comrades of Ruchel's. And the first one is Ed Poindexter, and he's been in prison since 1970. That's 52 years. Joseph Bowman has since 1971, 51 years. Sundiata Okole and Veranza Bowers have been in prison for 49 years. They went to jail and they went to prison in 1973, and both of them should be home. Sundiata is 84 years old, and he was supposed to come home in 2014. Veranza, 18 years past his mandatory time. So he should have come home in 2004. Then we have Kenny Whitmore, 1977, 45 years he's been down. Mumia Abu Jamal, 1982, he's been down for 40 years. Imam Jamil Al-Amin has been down for 22 years. And Kamal Siddiqui have been down, and Kamal Siddiqui has been down for 20 years. Now, I mention these comrades because they're in the same situation or case of Ruchell. It's an injustice for them to still be in prison for the crimes, for the alleged crimes that they committed, and their crimes they committed to support the Black community. And Ruchell, 83 years old, still in prison for a case that if it happened today, he wouldn't have even been charged with the bag of weed, especially in California. So I'd like to end with saying all power to the people. And I say that because only the people at this point have the power to stop the death sentences that have been imposed on our political prisoners, Ruchell, and the 8 Panthers who dared to struggle to support the Black community. So I'd like to say happy birthday to Ruchell. And this year, let this be the year that we see Ruchell on this side of the wall, because he deserves to be that, but we know that the people have the power to make it happen. Please help us to support all political prisoners. Free them now. All power to the people.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be...
Wow. Thank you, Yasmeen. That was wonderful. And all of these, everybody's presentation is very emotional, and actually much more emotional than I expected it to be. But thank you for your words, and particularly for your all power to the people, because you are correct. It is only through the power of the people that we're going to free our political prisoners. As Jonathan said, we cannot rely on the powers that be to have any sympathy, to feel that they are doing the wrong thing. So we need to keep ourselves organized and keep pushing. We need to free all of our political prisoners. Coming up next to speak to us is a young man, young to me, I guess, who has followed in the footsteps of his parents in his organizing efforts in the Chicago area. And I'm speaking about Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., who is the president and chairman of the Prisoners of Conscience Committee and the Black Panther Party Cubs. He is the son of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. and Akua Njeri. In 1969, Chairman Fred Hampton was chair of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party and was brutally murdered by the Chicago police in a raid orchestrated by the FBI's COINTEL program. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. has followed, as I said, in the footsteps of both of his parents, and he's going to share with us today what he has been doing and share some words about Ruchell Magee. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., it's your turn to speak. Thank you for coming.
Revolutionary appreciations. First and foremost, I want to say right on appreciation to Comrade Harold Welton for and everyone who invited me, as well as revolutionary respect to all the panelists, those who spoke, and also to the comrade who just helped me deal with this technical difficulties about me getting on. Appreciate you. And to most important, to the people in general. I also want to preface extend revolutionary birthday greetings to Ruchell Magee. Even just with the mention of his age, how long he's been held captive, subconsciously, it kind of hits me. I think the term he referred to as survivor's remorse. It hits me. I feel certain sentiments of that, being the fact that I myself am a former political prisoner. I was fortunate and unfortunate to be held captive. I say I'm unfortunate to be held inside these modern day concentration camps, but fortunate to, at some period of my life, to have my name listed amongst the ranks of such phenomenal forces, those who remain held captive, who we cannot take for granted any day that anyone is alive there. Field Marshal George Jackson said they're assessed in regards to the camps. There are no guaranteed out dates. And in particular, those who take a stance, those who have the ability to articulate and sum up why they are held, why they, and not only they themselves, but more important, our people in general, why we are targeted, why we are held captive. The question of political prisoners is a contradiction in particular. This country attempts to obliterate or malign, wipe out from history books. We've seen such palatable individuals such as former Ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Andrew Young, just even when he had to retract his statements about even saying that there were political prisoners inside the United States. As Malcolm X said, that America's democracy is an hypocrisy. The question of political prisoners must be tied into every conversation, whether we're talking about reparations, because reality is that the most valuable resource, other than gold, copper, oil, that we have been ripped up from, that we are continuously being ripped up of, is bodies, our actual bodies. And as Malcolm X said, America itself represents prison. As Minister U.E.P. Newton had assessed, that prison is a microcosm of the outside community. In other words, we see the contradictions, and we're in the stage in the game where even with state sentries, the police literally knowing they have body cameras on, we see how they still operate the cases of Philando Castile, the George Floyds, Breonna Taylor's, this goes on and on. In the outside community, we cannot even imagine the horrors and atrocities that the Ruchell Magees, the Sunday Ida Coleys, Mumia Abu Jamal's, Lena Peltiers, and this goes on and on, are subjected to behind those walls. For again, as Minister U.E.P. Newton also assessed that they love to perform their treachery in the dark. We must turn the lights on. This is not a subject matter that we can afford the quote unquote luxury just to discuss when it's quote unquote politically correct. Whether, people say, well, let's wait till Black History Month. Our position is that Black people are on the verge of becoming history. We can't wait till election time. This conversation, these names, such as Ruchell Magee, must be tied into every poetry set, every barbershop conversation, pool hall conversation, college campus, conversation about the quarantine or the pandemic. We say everything is political, and the dynamic of political prisoners is extremely important. I draw the correlation to, like, even in street organizations. People say when someone fights for them, at least they put their names on the wall. Someone is locked up for their organization. How we are viewed as a people, how people look at us. In many cases, I say Black people have been viewed as the Rodney Dangerfields of all races. In other words, no respect. How we deal with the question of political prisoners. You know what I'm saying? It impacts on how other communities look at us. And again, this is a subject in particular that this country attempts to avoid. And we must be consistent and keep the clamor of these names again in our everyday conversations. Happy birthday to Ruchell Magee. And again, the fact that when you hear the fact that, the country of 83 years old, how long he's been held captive, it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. It's also, on the other hand, it's inspiring that the stance that such forces have taken. We've been fortunate, our community's been fortunate to have not what we refer to as role models, but many real models. I was held captive living under 9 years inside just about every concentration camp in the state of Illinois. And I cannot devalue the war stories. I'm not saying in the cliche sort of way, the hearing of the travels and the stances that such forces, as Ruchell Magee, working on other prisoners' law cases when he himself had no outdate. The stance of Field Marshal George Jackson and others who were held captive, how it impacted me and how contagious it became to others who were held captive. Let the clarion call of free them all be clamored through every concentration camp, through every college campus, through every pool hall, through every website, you name it. Let's be consistent with this position. Again, free Ruchell Magee, free them all. Let me say this also. When on the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, myself and Mother Comrade Aku and Jerry, who the cultural consultants on there, our position was to make sure that the position of political prisoners be inclusive, in regards to some places at the movie, because again, Commandante Che Guevara said that the role of the propagandist is as important as the guerrilla. So this cannot be regulated to just a subject of when we talk about prisons, but again, reparations, movies, songs, poetry. This must be tied into every dynamic, every conversation.
Called Jazz, J-A-Z-Z. I said, this is very good. We are
Thank
jazz.
you, Chairman Fred.
Then I looked up jazz.
Thank you. Bring them all.
Free them all.
Free them all.
Absolutely. Chairman Fred's point about us losing bodies, we are losing bodies. The prison system is trying to extol a death penalty to the comrades who are still imprisoned, even though they have not been sentenced necessarily to death. The fact that they are still there, the names that Comrade Yasmeen read off, that they're still imprisoned, the power structure wants them to die behind bars. We have to get them out, and we have to do it as quickly as possible. Our next speaker is from Windhoek, Namibia. Sister Martha Asheke is a member of a group called the Power Pad Girls. And it's a group of women who are raising funds to help distribute free reusable sanitary pads to young girls or to women in Namibia. Sister Asheke, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. And like was just mentioned, I am from Namibia. I'm currently based in Namibia, but I'm also African-American as well. My mom is African-American, my dad is Namibian. So, you know, I feel particularly attached to this cause, just as a human being and a person. And I just wanted to share a song that I wrote a while ago called Late Night Thoughts. As an activist, it can be quite draining and tolling on our mental health, especially when you don't see, you know, an immediate change taking place. And this is something I wrote as part of my frustrations to things not changing as quickly as I wanted them to. But I always tell myself I need to feel my feelings, and I, you know, let myself be sad, let myself be frustrated, so that way I can let that out and have the energy to continue to do what I need to do. So this song is called Late Night Thoughts. So I'll sing and then I'll talk for a little bit afterwards if everyone is okay with that. Yeah, so I'll sing a cappella. Does it ever get better? I'm so tired of even trying. When will it get better? I'm so tired of fucking crying. How many times can I break my heart? Keep pushing the restart. It shouldn't be this hard. They always say, don't lose your faith. Your life is not a game. You have come all this way. Does it ever get better? I'm so tired of even trying. When will it get better? I'm so tired of fucking crying. I'm in pain, I'm alone, and I hurt and confused. But these are feelings that I'm more than used to. Is it even worth it? Should I put the work in? I just wish that things would just be fucking perfect. Does it ever get better? I'm so tired of even trying. When will it get better? I'm so tired of fucking crying. So yeah, thank you. So that is kind of, every once in a while, I sing that to myself just to get it out and get the negativity out. Thank you. But I do feel that it is quite important for me to be supportive of this cause, just because as a Namibian and as a country that actually is going to be celebrating its 32nd year of independence on Monday, this country gained its independence through our freedom fighters that sacrificed their safety and their freedom. Some of our leaders were even in Robben Island. And I think that it is important for me as a Namibian to make sure that I honor our freedom fighters and I honor our allies that also helped us gain our independence as well. So I really do, want to say thank you for having me here, and I'm happy to be here and show my support. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Martha. That was a beautiful, beautiful song that you shared. And it's really important. We definitely agree with that connection between Africa and the places that African people have ended up across the world. And we definitely agree with the need to fight for political prisoners wherever they may be. And especially when it comes to fighting the belly of the beast. We appreciate that solidarity all the way from Namibia. So the next person that I'm going to be introducing is a comrade of mine, a person that I've had, an honor of working with over the past 4 or 5 years, someone who's taught me so much myself, who taught me this story of what has happened with, all the way back to George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, Ruchell Magee. This is a person who, if you meet him, that's probably one of the first things he's going to talk to you about. So this is Harold Welton, a founding organizer with the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee, who also works with Black August Los Angeles and so many other organizations. He was a member of SNCC. He joined the Black Panther Party in 1969, where he worked in the Al Prentice Bunchy Carter Free Clinic and Free Breakfast Program. He was also a member of the East Los Angeles College Black Student Union and one of the founders, of the Jonathan Jackson Educational Cadre, which helped organize and educate his community in Avalon Gardens here in Los Angeles. Welcome, Harold.
Thank you, comrade. Greetings, love, and respect to everyone. I would like to start off by saying free them all, and that our political prisoners, our elder political prisoners, are under a death sentence. The enemy state wants them dead. It's not a question of legalities or court issues. They want our political prisoners dead. Let me give the front story, not the back story of Ruchell Magee. Ruchell Magee, born in Franklinton, Louisiana, not just hooded Klansmen, but institutional racist Klansmen, judges, lawyers, etc. Ruchell in 1955, August 1955, the same month that Emmett Till was lynched and murdered, was charged with allegedly attempting to rape a 23-year-old married white woman. At that time, an alleged case involving a white person, if you will, Black people couldn't testify in those trials. And so that happened to Ruchell Magee from reading and looking at some of the family members. We're in contact with one of his family members. So we see Ruchell Magee at 16 years old being sentenced to Angola prison, which was a former plantation, slave plantation, He does 8 years. By the way, he was the youngest person to ever go to Angola. He does 8 years, and he is paroled to Los Angeles, California. Ruchell, well, I'm proud to say where he lived was a few miles from where I live. Ruchell Magee and his cousin went to a nightclub one night. And from what we've seen, it was like a little competition over a woman in the club, right? Nothing violent, but competition. Well, it ends up that Ruchell Magee and his cousin gets charged with, sorry about somebody, it's alarm. Ruchell and his cousins are charged with the robbery of this marijuana dealer, $10 bag, and an alleged kidnap. He was beaten when he was captured. And my speculation is the fact that Ruchell was paroled to California doesn't mean anything. Like my father used to say, the difference between the South and California, one has a cover over you and one doesn't. And he was beaten. And I believe he was beaten because parolee, Louisiana, white woman, you're gonna do some time. So Ruchell was convicted. He did 8 years, 15 years up to August the 7th, 1970, the August 7th rebellion. And Ruchell Magee had an opportunity after all types of legal, state, federal briefs and appeals and writs, because he's a brilliant attorney. And I don't like it when I was used to be up in those county jails. I used to love to see what they would call jailhouse lawyers come through with their big folders. I had a lot of respect for him. But Ruchell Magee is an attorney, and he's been fighting this case from August 7th, in addition to the 1963 Los Angeles so-called kidnapping and $10 bag of marijuana. So I think it's very important that we get all of our political prisoners out, because they're under a death sentence. We look at Romaine Chip Fitzgerald. Last year, close to this time, he was executed, prison by death. And I just want to say this final thing. When I was in the Black Student Union at East LA College, in February of that year, we had what was called the Black Speakers Forum. And Angela spoke, and there was a tall man with her. It may have been March. The old man's getting old. It may have been March. And there was a tall gentleman with her. And I found out later that to be Jonathan Jackson. And Angela invited us to a Soledad Brother committee meeting on 50th and San Pedro here in Los Angeles. And at that time, I met Georgia Jackson, Fleeta Drumgo's mother, two of the Jackson sisters, and then again, it was Jonathan P. Jackson. And I remember, I forgot who it was, they were talking about this brother in prison who wrote some brilliant letters that they were going to make a book out of. And that turned out to be Soledad Letters, Comrade George Jackson. And so again, free all our elders, political prisoners, free them all. And I want to say two more things. Hope I'm not over my 5 minutes. Jalil said that Comrade had a sense of humor. I'm talking about Ruchell Magee. I like that because I do. And one time this person told me that I thought that George and Jonathan walked on water. I told him, You know what? I didn't know they didn't. So, yeah, so let's free them all. Let's get our comrade out. And it's so it's an emotional. I had to hold back at the beginning of this rally when I wish I knew how it felt to be free was on, because I remember when we went to Comrade George Jackson's memorial service, they played that at the end of his memorial service. You got to understand, back in those days, the manhood thing kicked in, and I wanted to cry my eyes out, but I didn't. But I love all the political prisoners. Let's get them free. Let's don't let them die. Let's continue after this. Let's call this governor for clemency. Let's continue to make donations. We're in the process of getting a lawyer to deal with clemency and commutation. Finally, I see G2 is online. G2 is a tireless G2 Siddiqui of Black August, Los Angeles, and the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee. He is a tireless worker for not only political prisoners that were from the outside into prison, but those that were in prison who were not necessarily political, if you will. G2 he's always there. So love and respect to everyone, and thank you to everyone for turning out and up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you.
Harold's point about political prisoners dying in prison is serious. As he mentioned, Chip Fitzgerald was not able to get out soon enough, and he succumbed in prison. And that was a very sad time for me, and I'm sure for our movement. And as we lose people who are still incarcerated, the pain is deeper. We have to fight to free every political prisoner. We don't want the system to win and have them die behind bars. Our next speaker, Melina Abdullah, is one of the original organizers of the Black Lives Matter movement. She is its Los Angeles area chief organizer. She is also a professor at California State University, Los Angeles, and is a former chair of that campus's Pan-African Studies Department. Welcome, Dr. Abdullah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really deeply honored to be a part of this conversation. Deeply honored to speak alongside of so many folks who I just deeply respect and love. I'm also the spirit daughter of Baba Hank Jones, so to see Jalil Muntaqim is really impactful for me, and grateful for all who've been struggling for the freedom of all of our political prisoners, especially Ruchell Magee, who we send deep birthday love to. And there's nothing better that we can do for his birthday than to secure his freedom. I want to just uplift a couple of things. I won't be too long, but I just want to uplift a couple of things as those who are committed to struggle for freedom. We have to remember the words. In fact, Brother Kameron spoke these words this morning on the radio program that today's organizers are tomorrow's political prisoners if we don't change things. And so we have to struggle to free our political prisoners. We have to struggle for Ruchell Magee because he is us. He represents what will be if we don't change things for him. So let's start by freeing our elders. And there's some tangible things that we can do. I'm so grateful for the website, freeruchellmagee.org, freeruchellmagee.org, if folks are not already on it, which has some tangible steps that we can take. We are not going to wait for his next parole hearing. We're going to secure clemency now by calling the governor's office and doing something which can sometimes prove a challenge for me, and that's not cussing the governor out. That's saying that we want clemency for Ruchell Magee. We're going to sign every petition that we can. We're going to share his story, because one of the things that we do know is that while people know the names of some political prisoners, they often don't know the name or the story of Ruchell Magee. So we have to share this story. I'm sure that this conversation is going to be shareable after we finish having it. So make sure that we share this story. And then also, I want to uplift that when we say that today's organizers are tomorrow's political prisoners, we also have to remember how people come into their consciousness. And so there's the constant making of political prisoners. And so I just want to say one name, and there's many, many others, but there's a brother in prison right now at Lancaster Prison named Jay Burton, who came into consciousness in prison. He was 16 years old, just like Ruchell Magee was 16 years old when he was first incarcerated. He's been in prison now for 38 years. There's no evidence that holds him there, but while he's in there, he's become extremely conscious, and an organizer, was part of the hunger strikes, Pelican Bay hunger strikes, and is now the founder of the Black Lives Matter prison chapter. And so we can think about his story also as the making of political prisoners. And I'm lifting this point not just to say, you know, I want to say the name Jay Burton, but also because until we abolish prisons and this entire system, we will always have political prisoners. So we want to free them all. And then we want to destroy the system that holds them. So we must be abolitionist in our frame. We must say that people don't belong in cages. We must destroy the prison system that was built intentionally to cage and hold our folks, especially the most conscious and powerful among us. And so finally, the last thing that I'll say is that Black Lives Matter, and I'm an organizer with Black Lives Matter Grassroots, the on-the-ground work that Black Lives Matter does globally. And Black Lives Matter would like to continues to offer our full resources to engaging in this work. We understand that we're bound with every political prisoner. And so we're going to struggle as hard as we can until we don't have anything left to struggle with, to free Ruchell Magee and all political prisoners. And so again, thank you everyone for your work, and please call on us for everything that you need, that we can offer, anything that we can do. We are in this alongside you, grateful for those who've been struggling ahead of us, and will continue to carry forward that work.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Melina Abdullah. I want to extend, of course, thanks for having us on This Is Not a Drill this morning to help get the word out to the people who listen, and also for all the support that you and your organizations have given since the beginning of this campaign, including helping us to secure a billboard, which should be put up later this month. So more news on that, definitely check out our social media. You can follow this campaign at Free Ruchell Magee on Instagram and Facebook. And we can drop all the links in the chat like we've been doing. Please visit www.freeruchellmagee.org to learn more. And there's so much more that you could do from that website, from signing the petition, joining our email list, learning about Ruchell's case, donating. Everything is possible from there. And I want to give a big shout out to our main web designer, Tina, who is not present today, but is very, very helpful on all of this work. So I want to agree that we are wishing a revolutionary birthday to Ruchell Magee. I can't be happy on this birthday, not until he's released. But at the same time, I'm very inspired by, you know, how amazing this program has been. We're not even close to done. So please stick around, and it's not too late to invite people. Send them the same link that you used to join. That's bit.ly/Ruchell83. And it's not too late to, go ahead, register, join, and hear our last few speakers. But what we're going to do briefly while you're sharing this on your social media, while you're getting the word out, is we're going to show a song from 2016 by Kameron called Letter to the Free. I believe this was used for the movie 13th, but stick around, check out the music, enjoy, and we'll be back with more speakers. Yes, what an amazing piece. I hope you all were moved by it. It gave me chills for sure. Very exciting, and we're looking forward to finishing up the program now. So without further ado, the next speaker that we have is Empress Chi, who is the visionary architect, sole founder, and originator of the historic Million Woman March and the President General of Million Woman March Universal Movements. She's also an educator, an independent researcher, a sage scriber, a freelance writer, radio and TV broadcast communicator, a wearable arts designer, a choreographer, and African percussionist. And she also focuses on holistic health and all the ways that we can make people feel better. So without further ado, I'll pass to Empress Chi.
Okay, can you see me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, at least you can hear me. I'm not sure why you can't see me, but nevertheless, greetings to everyone, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I was hoping you could see me because sitting right next to me here is my sister Pam, Africa. She just joined us. But at any rate, we're going to see how we can straighten out that video piece. I don't know what has happened, but anyway, thank everyone again for this great rally. And of course, we say freedom all. Big ups to my brother, Chairman Fred. I heard him on earlier. And thank you, Sister Virginia, for inviting me to present today. As it was indicated, the historic Million Woman March is, of course, the largest gathering in the world of any women anywhere ever. Unfortunately, we have not been recognized as such, but it's okay because we're going to change that now. And with this being Women's History Month, I would be remiss if I did not mention our sister, Minister Joy Powell, Reverend Joy Powell. When we talk about political prisoners, of course, there are names that we're very familiar with, and we are all so thankful to the Jericho movement and others who have made certain that they kept those names out there. But also we're saying as Black women, we have another responsibility in that the name of Reverend Joy Powell is not one that is very recognized in most circles, and definitely not in our communities. One of the things that the original Million Woman March and now the MWM Universal Movement is committed to is making certain that the information, the campaigns, and the other kinds of initiatives to free all of our political prisoners is brought into our communities on the grassroots level, boots on the ground. With that said, the We Charge Genocide 21 project, which got started in 2017. Again, it's We Charge Genocide 21. That's because in following and moving forward from those who come before us, the great Paul Robeson, of course, Mother Callie House in a different kind of way, but also, of course, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, William Patterson, Queen Mother Moore, those who taught us about human rights, Black human rights. And we say that unapologetically. While we support others in their fight and struggle for freedom and justice, our position is made very clear, and that is we have to say without any shadow of a doubt that the human rights violations of peoples of African descent in North America must be clearly stated and must be fought for in such a way that we must honor our ancestors. So with that said, I'm going to not only honor our ancestors, but I want to share with you a message from Dr. Joy, or rather Reverend Joy Powell. It says, in the day of the International Day of Women, which occurred March the 8th, Reverend Joy said, I dedicate the word of this day for the International Women's Month to an artist whom I admire, whose name is Erykah Badu. Erica's word says a cipher is a circle of 360 degrees, and a cipher is a rolling stone. And my cipher represents myself and the atoms in my body, and the rolling stone represents the earth. The atoms in my body rotate at the same rate as the axis. The earth rotates, giving us a connection with the place we live and call earth. Therefore, we call ourselves earth. On my hand, I wear an ankh with a Kemetic symbol. Kemet is the original word used by the Egyptians, and ankh symbol can be found on the walls in the hieroglyphics. Reverend Joy Powell is, of course, a political prisoner. Again, not necessarily known by many, but certainly her message also says to free them all. Of course, free Ruchell Magee, free Mumia Abu-Jamal, Iman Jamil Alameen, Sunni Ada Akoli. The Million Woman March made that statement 25 years ago when we had the largest gathering in the world here in Philadelphia, where Sister Pam Africa, Sister Ramona Africa spoke to make sure that the voices of political prisoners could be heard, not just to our women, but worldwide. And with that, we continue to do that work for 25 years now. This year marks the 25-year anniversary of that historic gathering, where we also read a message in English and in Spanish from Sister Assata Shakur. With that said, we bring now a plan of action to, again, educate the masses of our people about political prisoners. In April, as a part of our Bring Mumia Home campaign, a poster and sign initiative is being implemented here in Philadelphia, and we hope that all will join in. We will make available flyers, posters, signs that you can put in your window, that you can put in on your lawn, that says, free them all, bring Mumia home. And it also will say, Mumia is welcomed here. So again, we thank all of you for this incredible, incredible assembly and dialogue. And again, the spirit of our ancestors is moving us forward with the We Charge Genocide 21. We're now going for our first 1 million signatures that we will take to the United Nations as soon as the COVID thing kind of allows us to do so. And with those 21 points, of course, to expose further COINTELPRO, and again, to make it very clear that our political prisoners must be freed as a part of reparatory justice. We are making that demand. And of course, Black women hold a lot of purse. We're more than capable and able to follow through if we unify realistically in the 21st century. Again, I thank all of you for this time and for sharing this incredible day. Again, many, many good things for our brother, Ruchell Magee, on this Earth Day recognition. And I leave you with Asante Sana and Pamoja to the Shinda. Together we shall win.
That is so right. Thank you so much, Sister Empress Chi, and as well as Pam Africa. We will win as we demand freedom for Ruchell Magee, for Reverend Joy Powell, Sundiata Akoli, Mumia Abu-Jamal, Imam Jamil Alameen, Mutulu Shakur, even Jay Burton, who's right here with us. We are very thankful for the fight, the struggle to free all of them. And of course, there's unfortunately too many to name. So if you know others, drop them in the chat real quick, because we can never say their names enough. We got to keep them on our minds at all times. So with that, we are going to go to our next speaker, Diane Fujino. Dr. Diane Fujino is a longtime activist organizing support for political prisoners, ethnic studies, and democratic education. She is a professor of Asian American Studies at UC Santa Barbara and author of several books, including Heartbeat of the Struggle, The Revolutionary Life of Yuri Kochiyama, Contemporary Asian American Activism, Building Movements for Liberation, and Black Power Afterlives, The Enduring Significance of the Black Panther Party, Without further ado, Dr. Diane Fujino.
Hello to everybody, and my deep gratitude to the organizers of this program and all those working to free Ruchell Magee. I say this because we know that from history, it will always take a strong social movement on the ground if we're going to win the release of our political prisoners. And as Sister Abdullah said, that we will need to abolish prisons and the policing institutions that do such harm if we're going to end the continuation of imprisoned activists and the incarceration system. I come to the political prisoner movement from my Japanese American elders, Yuri Kochiyama, Reverend Michael Yasutake, and Mitsue Yamada. And I started to visit in the 1990s political prisoners in Lompoc, California, the prison close to my husband and myself. And while there, we learned two really important lessons from the people that we were visiting. One was Adolfo Matos, part of the Puerto Rican independence movement, and that the Puerto Rican movement won a victory, the release of Adolfo Matos and 10 other Puerto Rican political prisoners in 1999, and they continued to win the release of other Puerto Rican POWs and political prisoners. And the other lesson that I learned for the second person that we had been visiting on a long-term basis was the death of political prisoner Richard Williams due to medical neglect. And I think that these are two really important lessons of what is possible with grassroots struggle in the spirit of Black power and that Black power movement, and in the ongoing Black liberation struggles that people have been working on for so long and with such dedication. But it's going to take this movement, and it's going to take all of us doing this in order to have these victories. So I say to those who are inspired by the Black Power movement and to those who say they oppose anti-Black racism, that it's time to step up, right, and to move things into action. And this is one practice that we can do. And Ruchell Magee's life is important because, well, he's 83 years old. He's been in prison for more than 60 years since he was age 16. And it's time that we win his release as a movement. And it's also, his life is also important because he represents so much of what it means to be a Black man in the United States. So he first went inside, as people had said, in 1955 in Louisiana, charged with having a relationship with a white woman in the violation of the strong taboo against interracial intimacies in the South. And so his charge was really not the legal issue. It was a violation of the social order. And that violation of the social order continued to follow him. So in 1966, after 8 years in Angola prison in Louisiana, he's in Los Angeles, and he and his cousin are then accused of kidnapping a man as they sit in that man's car. And the real dispute was about a $10 bag of weed, right? And as people are saying, he wouldn't even be incarcerated for having marijuana possession today. And when the police came in 1966, they beat Ruchell so badly that he ended up in the hospital for 3 days. He was given 7 years to life, and 59 years later, he remains in prison. This case, of course, echoes that of George Jackson, right? The famed Black Panther leader of the prison liberation movement, who also went in on a small charge, $70, and was given an indeterminate sentence of 1 year to life. There are changes that we can make today so that we see, right, the options that we have of people dying in prison, of people being killed, or of freedom. And that is something that we can all commit ourselves to today. So, and I want to say that had Ruchell Magee was not convicted of murder, but had he been, he would have been out a long time ago. The US Department of Justice report in 2016 noted that the average time served for a murder conviction in state prison is 15 years. So why has Ruchell Magee been in prison for almost 60 years? And I want to say again, this is not a case about the legal charges. This is about a Black man who dared to fight for his own liberation and the liberation of other prisoners. And so I say to those who are fighting and who care about Black liberation, who are inspired by the Black Power movement, and who say they oppose anti-Blackness, that in the spirit of Bandung and as a person of solidarity, it's time to commit ourselves to action, to stand with the campaign calling for the release of our aging political prisoners, to stand with the campaigns to release all aging prisoners, to stand with the campaigns to free Black freedom fighters and all political prisoners, and to call for the abolition of prisons and policings as institutions of harm. And so I recommit myself today with this rally and this program to stand in solidarity and work with the campaign to free Ruchell Magee and all political prisoners. Thank you.
Where have you been for all these years?
Thank you so much, Dr. Fujino. We are very, very appreciative of that solidarity and of that commitment. And we look forward to continuing to work with you, of course. And next up on our program, we saw that Ajamu would like to speak today. So we are happy to introduce Ajamu, and we'll go ahead and let you take it away from there, brother. Take care.
All right, peace to everyone. I send my love to you all. My name is Ajamu. I mean, my real name is Jay Burton. I'm the brother that Dr. Melina was talking about earlier. I'm the founder of Black Lives Matter Prison Chapter. I've been incarcerated since I was 16 here in California. I'm 50 years old now. I've been fighting a murder case that these pigs in Linwood, they call themselves the Linwood Viking Sheriffs. I got caught up in a scandal, and I've been trying to prove my innocence for the past 33 years. And it has been very difficult. But that don't stop me from my mission. And my mission is to free us all. And if I'm not freed, I did a lot of work for the people behind these bars. That's why I started the Black Lives Matter Prison Chapter, so we can start getting our voices heard behind these walls. And you know, I'm very honored to just to actually be here in this meeting. I never had a chance to meet Mr. Magee, but you know, I've been in areas where he was at, but I never met him personally. Brother Chip Fitzgerald, before he passed away, me and him, we used to dialogue every day. And he died literally the next building close to where I'm at right now. And we here that's stuck in these prisons, I've been trying to figure out how could we get some kind of bill that eliminates indeterminate sentencing. Despite that, I've been claiming my innocence for 33 years. When I went to parole board in 2017 for a youth offender parole hearing, they denied me for 7 years because I refused to say that I actually did this murder that I've been sitting in here for. So they denied me another 7 years. And by me going up there as a youth offender, I just don't get why is it that whether a person is innocent, guilty, and he was a youth, a 60-year-old back then, why is it that we got laws that keep us in prison for the rest of our lives? Because basically, I was sentenced to a slow death. I don't know if I ever make it out, but you know, I've been fighting long and hard. I also got several people out of prison through my jailhouse lawyer experiences as well. But it has been a very difficult task when it comes to me. I've been trying to find people to join me with drafting up a petition that will basically say that they're doing away with indeterminate sentencing, especially when it's starting with the youth offenders, those who are juveniles. Because when you look at a person with life without parole in the state of California, after I think 30 to 35 years, they can ask for clemency or pardon, and things can happen. I've been basically subjected to although I was given 25 years to life when I was 16 back then, I am well over the date of release. And I'm not going to give these people any pleasure of saying that I did this crime because I didn't do it. I was actually, like I say, I was caught up in a police scandal, which is called the Linwood Vikings. These people in the Los Angeles Sheriff Department, they said my fingerprint was on a gun. I've never saw this gun ever in my life. And not only that, I've been trying to get a copy of this single fingerprint for about 32 years. They have denied me all 32 years access to this fingerprint. So we started the hashtag Free J Burton movement. And it has gained a lot of momentum around the world. It's gained a lot of momentum. But at the same time, when I come back here, deal with my own realities, these people are still refusing to give us access to this fingerprint. The Innocent Project, they came in my case in the early 2000s, and they couldn't get it. Every lawyers, everybody that got involved in my case, they cannot get access to this fingerprint. So after I started realizing that maybe I might just be spending the rest of my life here, you know, I started educating a lot of these Bloods and Crips here because I come up out of Watts, California. So when I started educating a lot of these Bloods and Crips, like around 2006, they validated me as a Black guerrilla family. And when they validated me, they put me in solitary confinement. I stayed in solitary confinement for like 9 years. And during this time I stayed in solitary confinement, they did everything in their power to try to break me. You know, there was times that I just wanted to give up, but I couldn't give up because I knew that if I give up, the people that did look toward me or looked up to me, they're just like, it just go in vain. So I could never give up this fight. Now that I've been out here after the hunger strikes, I mean, we literally put our lives on the line when we hunger strike, like from 2011, 2012, 2013, I believe them was the years. We just trying to get our voices heard out there, especially us, those who've been, you know, incarcerated for decades. And like we got a brother named Minister King X, he on here somewhere. When he left the prison yard, me and him, we was neighbors. We did a lot of stuff on these yards together. And he promised me one thing, that when he get out there, he was gonna continue to fight for us. And I have to salute him for doing that. But we need more Minister King X's out there. We need more people like Melina. That when I reached out to Melina, she started helping me do my thing back here. But the thing is, we need more people to galvanize and help us get a voice out there. So if there's anybody that can help us with this movement, I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for none of that stuff. We just asking for a voice. We asking for support in these prisons. We need all the help we can get. We need to free Ruchell Magee. We need to free the J. Burdens. We need to free everybody that's been in here for decades. Whether they did it or they didn't do it, we need to get our people free. So if anybody want to contact me on my Facebook, on my Instagram, it's like Freedom for J. Burton, a number 4 JAYBURTON. I would love to see if I can gain anybody's support to help us get a voice outside these walls, and hopefully we can abolish. Okay, it's gonna be hard to abolish the prison, but I'm with the whole abolish the whole prison system. But for now, I'm trying to get a petition started to where we can do away with indeterminate sentencing. So that's all I come here for, and I appreciate y'all giving me a time to speak.
Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
Thank you, Brother Ajamu. Thank you for coming to us from behind the wall and letting us know what your situation is. And I'm certain that with all the people that have joined in today, all the numbers of the comments that I've seen in the chat, there have been well over several hundred comments in the chat. And I know that after your information that you've given us, there will be people that will join in with your effort. We will join in with your effort, because our whole purpose is to free political prisoners, not just Mumia, not just Ruchell Magee, not just Mumia Abu Jamal, not just the people that are in the news and well known, but everybody that's behind bars. Your situation, being there and being well beyond the sentence that you should have received, is an indication that the system that we live under has no interest in Black men being out walking the streets. And if they can do anything in their power to keep our Black men behind bars, they will. Also our sisters, like Reverend Joy Powell that was mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The government is trying to destroy us as Black people. And we know that, and they're gonna do everything in their power to do that. So we're gonna join with your movement, your effort, Brother Ajamu.
Yeah.
We're gonna absolutely get involved in helping do that. Indeterminate sentences are absolutely. Why would they have indeterminate sentences? So people could die in prison. So we're gonna see how we can get that stopped.
Yes, and I appreciate this platform. I'm telling you, it's trust me, I've been fighting real hard. Like I said, I just don't fight for myself. I fight for the people. And I actually gave my life up to this. That's why Miss Melina Abdullah, that's why she spoke so highly of me. She know exactly what I do behind these walls. I reached from California all the way to the East Coast with guys and women that's in prison, that's incarcerated. But a lot of us, we don't have the people outside these walls that can advocate for us and be our voice for us. So that's why I utilize every moment, every second, every day to do what I can to reach to the people out there. Like I say, now that I know that a lot of people is listening, if I ask you guys to, DM me in my Instagram at freedom4 J Burton, JAYBURTON. Anything y'all want to know, I'm transparent, but this is strictly about the struggle and liberating our people. Even if I don't get liberated, I've been mentally liberated for many years, so I'm good. And I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, from behind the walls, Brother Burton. Next, we have a video presentation from Dr. Robin Kelley, who's our next speaker. Dr. Kelley is a professor of history at UCLA and author of several books, including Hammer and Hoe, Alabama Communists During the Great Depression, and Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Imagination. Dr. Kelley.
Greetings, everyone. I'm sorry I can't be there with you today. But first, I want to send birthday wishes to our brother, Ruchell Magee. In fact, if we didn't live in such a barbaric, racist, and classist society, we might be here gathering together to celebrate Mr. Magee's retirement from a successful law practice, acknowledging all the people whose freedom he would have secured. Instead, we're here today to fight for his freedom and ultimately the freedom of all prisoners. We have to remember that Mr. Magee was a political prisoner 15 years before he joined the Courthouse Rebellion of August 7th, 1970. He was arrested in Louisiana, his home state, in 1955 for challenging Jim Crow prohibitions against Black men consorting with white women. Though remember, he was only 16 years old, which meant that he was hardly a man. Nevertheless, since sex across the color line was not illegal, because if that were the case, Southern prisons would be filled with white men. Magee was convicted of attempted rape and sentenced to 12 years hard labor at the notorious Angola State Prison. Paroled after 6 years, he moved to Los Angeles, where he managed to live free for about a year before being arrested on March 23, 1963, on false charges of robbery and kidnapping. He and his cousin had gotten a ride from a musician acquaintance named Ben Brown, with whom he had gotten into a dispute. And in fact, Brown had pulled a gun on Magee 2 weeks earlier. Brown left his car and ran to the police with some concocted story of having been robbed and kidnapped. Police arrested Ruchell Magee, beating him so badly that he had to be hospitalized for 5 days. Magee always maintained his innocence, and in fact, a state appeals court reversed his conviction in December 1964. But during his new trial, the judge would not permit him to fire his incompetent court-appointed lawyer and to defend himself, which resulted in his reconviction in 1965. Magee recognized very early on that the LA courts were no different than those in Louisiana. Throughout his life in captivity, he has consistently and methodically exposed the corruption of the legal system, not to mention the impeachable offenses of certain federal and state judges. He's been subjected to courtroom beatings, gaggings, the denial of his own court transcripts, and injunctions prohibiting him from submitting new evidence in his favor. And all this has taken place before his joint trial with Angela Davis. And the injustice continues. You know, the conspiracy charge against Ruchell Magee was dropped when Angela was acquitted, and the murder charge was dropped after Magee's trial ended in a hung jury. He was actually eligible for parole for the 1965 conviction in 1970. So the question is, why is Ruchell Magee still in a cage? Not that innocence alone should be the reason to free anyone from a cage, but he should have never been in prison in the first place. Ruchell Magee is confined because he poses a threat to state power. He is a prisoner of war who has continually resisted this unjust system for nearly 60 years. Much like Mutulu Shakur and others, he is being punished for defending himself and others in the constitutionally authorized court of law. He was an abolitionist long before that word became popular. He understood clearly what he was to the state, and that is a captive, a slave, and therefore knew instinctively and legally that he had the right to try to free himself when the opportunity arose. As Mr. Magee said in 1974, as long as you're fighting, it makes no difference what the damn odds may be. You can't tell who the winner's going to be until after. You don't give up unless you're willing to accept a loss. Now, we can't give up. We can't afford to give up. We have no choice but to fight until all captives are free. Free Ruchell Magee, free the land, abolition now.
I want to thank Dr. Kelley for giving us that video recorded message and his support for the freedom of Ruchell Magee. Our next speaker is Dr. Gerald Ball. So I need to get my glasses fixed. Dr. Ball is a professor of Communication and Africana Studies at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. He's also the author of The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. Dr. Ball has a podcast, and the podcast is called I Mix What I Like. He's the co-founder of Black Power Media, which can be found at blackpowermedia.org. And his decades of journalism, media writing, and political work can be found at imixwhatilike.org. So welcome to Dr. Jared Ball. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Peace and greetings to everybody. And again, it's just like everybody has been saying, it's an incredible honor to be involved with this. I just have a couple quick points I'd like to share, but I have to, initially, I just want to start off by, as we've heard recountings of what happened at the Marin County Courthouse, just another shout out to Ruchell, because I mean, what kind of person do you have to be to accept that kind of an unplanned invitation to freedom? You know what I'm saying? That's just, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so once again, first, please allow me to wish Ruchell a very happy birthday and to publicly apologize for this being my only attempt at a direct communication. Support for you, Ruchell, and any other political prisoner should always be more than just journalistic, academic, or even as an activist. So again, happy belated birthday, and a big, again, and secondly, thanks to all the organizers, Kameron in particular, for inviting me to this event. It's very humbling, and I'm deeply appreciative. And it's been an incredibly inspiring and powerful event, as we could have perhaps expected. And again, I just am happy to be able to wish Ruchell Magee a very happy birthday, belated as it may be, and to offer any support I can to him and all other political prisoners, and of course, with the call to free them all. In the spirit of Mandela, let's free all the world's political prisoners, but in the spirit also of Chris Hani, let's have their freedom be reflective of the movement in politics far more to the left. And though not being on my particular, on top of my particular European literature game, I have recently heard Kafka quoted as saying something like, believing in progress does not mean believing that any progress has yet been made. And I think that this is precisely how I see the issue of political imprisonment as exemplified in the life of a Ruchell Magee. That is, we constantly are propagandized to think of our lifetime or our political situation as progress from a time before. But while I believe philosophically that progress is possible, the existence of political prisoners like Magee is proof that certainly an insufficient degree of progress has yet to be made. And that's why I also think it's, as was said earlier by Angela Davis and several others, in fact, about Magee being the first to connect the prison to the plantation. The existence of prisons today at all, never mind political prisoners, is proof of the most ignoble, of that most ignoble continuity. It is also why, as Fred Jr. said earlier, you know, folks like Andy Young would have to attempt to deny the existence of political prisoners because he knows, and as he and others claim to walk in the legacy of a Dr. King, who I saw in the chat was rightly remembered for having said that racism's logical conclusion is genocide, that we are, that while they claim to walk in the legacy of Dr. King, that were they to actually do so, they themselves would also likely be political prisoners, and probably should be political prisoners as opposed to neoliberal Congress people and purveyors of Black capitalism. And we also would have to remember, you know, when the governor at the time, as he was called, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California, his refusal to free Stanley Tookie Williams explicitly included, and in fact, centered the fact that Williams continued to pay homage and respect to people like George Jackson, Malcolm X, Assata Shakur, and others, which his very reference to political prisoners in this legacy of struggle meant for Tookie Williams that according to Schwarzenegger, he was not yet reformed and deserving of freedom. So this is just a reminder of just the very ideas that these people worked with and continue to espouse is threatening and is something to be punished from the eyes of the state. So I'll wrap here by just again saying I'm honored to be in this gathering at a time when national discussions of political imprisonment go little farther than Julian Assange, who, though is deserving of freedom, is also deserving of having his imprisonment be contextualized by those longest held as such, like a Ruchell Magee. So happy again, belated birthday to Ruchell Magee, and once again, free them all. And in the words of Fred Hampton Sr., to you we say peace, because I know you're willing to fight for it. So thanks again, everybody, and peace to all of you. And let's free them all for sure.
Trouble you won't write to me, won't write to me, won't write to me, baby, won't write to me.
Wow. As we reach the end of our program, I want to say this has been an absolutely dynamic program. I am so proud to have been a part of this, and so happy to have had all of these distinguished folks on our panel as speakers, presenters. The history and information that has been presented here today has been phenomenal. And if people don't leave here today willing to step up, work for this movement that we're pushing for, I don't know what will make it happen. We have got to continue. Jared just mentioned the, I can't remember exactly, but to paraphrase it, it may not seem like anything has happened when something has actually happened. We get criticized a lot as elders for not having moved our movement forward enough, but we wouldn't be able to have this program today if we had not moved our movement forward. So I'm gonna say that yes, it might seem like nothing has happened, but things have happened and things are happening. This is one of the things that's happening. This rally we're having today in honor of Ruchell Magee and all political prisoners is one of the things that's happening, and it should get people stirred up and ready to move against the system to free political prisoners, to abolish prisons. Earlier, Ajamu said he doesn't know what we're going to do. Instead of having prisons, that's an issue we have to address as our movement. But we definitely want to abolish prisons. We want to come up with some other way to deal with people that we might have to, or who might need to be separated from us for a moment. So, but we have to figure that out. Our movement needs to figure that out. We have to come up with an idea of how we're going to deal with that issue. But I want to finish. I want to go to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Eugene Puryear. He is a Central Committee member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. He co-founded the Washington, D.C.-based Jobs Not Jail Coalition. He is a political activist, a journalist, and author who ran as the 2016 vice presidential candidate for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. He is the author of the book Shackled and Chained, Mass Incarceration in Capitalist America. And with that said, I welcome Eugene Puryear to our panel. Thank you.
No, well, thank you. What else can I say now? What an amazing program, what an amazing panel. I can say on behalf of myself and certainly on behalf of all of the leadership and the members of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, we're extremely honored to be able to be here today and to offer our revolutionary birthday greetings to Ruchell Magee, Ruchell St. Q Magee, which feels like such an important connection to make, because the spirit of Amistad is still alive. The spirit of the August 7th rebellion is still alive. We can see it from Ferguson to Baltimore to Minneapolis to Kenosha to the 10,000 people arrested rebelling in 2020 in the streets in just 2 weeks in June, that the spirit that Ruchell Magee has brought to all of our hearts that brings us here today. As Jared Ball said, what kind of person do you have to be to accept that kind of invitation to an unplanned opportunity for freedom? And that spirit is alive in the hearts of so many people. Perhaps it needs to continue to be channeled, continue to be organized in ways that will reach ever higher levels. But I think the legacy of Ruchell Magee is so clear, not just in the past, but it's so clear in the present. And I think it's so critically important that we remember that connection, because the liberation of our political prisoners is not just an issue of the moral rightness of what it may be, the immorality of their imprisonment, but it really is the precondition for all of our liberation. I mean, is it possible to imagine a liberated reality in which not only are political prisoners were free, but being venerated, having statues and all sorts of other institutions named after them? From my point of view, it's not possible to do it. So the freedom of political prisoners is a political task put before us as part of a broader revolutionary struggle. And the life of someone like Ruchell Magee is so indicative of the war that's been waged on Black America by the capitalist imperialist system for so many hundreds of years, so many decades. I mean, the fight against Jim Crow, the fight against the racist war on drugs, the fight against the counterinsurgency of the Black revolutionary uprisings of the 60s and 70s. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't note, and it's been mentioned multiple times, the $10 bag of weed. Well, now weed is $1 billion business in the state of California. So ultimately, we can see the injustice, we can see the unfairness, we can see the links from our revolutionary past, the importance of that to our revolutionary future, the need to lift up our political prisoners to an even higher level. And I unite 100% with Chairman Fred that we have to infuse every single thing we do with the consciousness of our political prisoners, their existence and their need for freedom, just like so many other liberation movements. I mean, what would liberation movements around the world from South Africa to Palestine be without their political prisoners? And I'll mention parenthetically the political prisoners in Palestine right now continuing to struggle, just about to go into a hunger strike. So very honored to be here. I don't want to speak too long. I think we've heard so much and so many powerful things. Let's just let this be a year where we redouble all of our efforts to free Ruchell Magee. I want to make sure that Gavin Newsom can't sleep one wink at night, because the struggle is so powerful to free Ruchell Magee that there is no stone left unturned, no person left uneducated in the state of California, the country of the United States, and really on this planet, about the plight of Ruchell Magee, the need for him to be freed immediately, the need to free all political prisoners and to lift up their legacy and to carry on their political struggle and to continue in this 21st century era for liberation, for justice, for equality, against exploitation, the struggle that those like Ruchell have lifted up. So thank you so much on behalf of myself and on behalf of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Sign the petition, spread the petition, let everyone know what's going on as it concerns Ruchell Magee. Let's build this movement. Let's build this fight. Let's free him this year.
Go. Thank you so much to Eugene for joining us and closing out the program. You know, I'm very honored to share an organization with you, and we very much appreciate the PSL's support ever since the beginning of the launch of this campaign. Very thankful for you. And with that, we are going to go into the final call to action. So there's still, of course, like Eugene was pointing out, there's so many ways that this work can be done, but it can only be done with you. With the support of not only you, but the networks that you have, hundreds or thousands of people. And we believe that together we can bring about that world where, you know, all of these political prisoners are free. And not only that, but there's actual justice, you know, all the way from Palestine to South Africa to here and all the way back around. So in making that happen, I want to introduce Tiah Starr, who is an amazing organizer, an amazing designer, who has done tremendous work with at least Black August Los Angeles, as well as the Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee. And she's going to give us that final call to action, what we can do.
All right, thank you for that, Cameron. So first of all, I just want to start out by saying what an honor it is to be with everybody here today. I learn from you guys every day, and hopefully we can drive this movement even bigger than what it is right now to drive awareness higher. So I'm going to be giving everybody some quick things you can do to get involved, to get to spread the word. So first off, if you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, you can follow us at Free Ruchell Magee. If you're on Facebook, you can just search Coalition to Free Ruchell Magee on Facebook and you'll find us that way. And if you're on Twitter, so every Thursday we're going to be doing a Twitter storm. Every Thursday at noon PT time. And so what that involves is at that time, we're all going to get on, we're going to share information about Ruchell Magee. We're going to use that hashtag Free Ruchell Magee. And hopefully week by week, we're just going to keep getting the awareness higher. And our goal is to trend. So we want to trend around the country and we want people to start searching the story and learn why Ruchell Magee deserves to be free. So if you don't have social media, there's other things that you can do on other parts of the internet. So I'm going to give you 5 things you can do from our website. So number 1, you can sign the petition to Governor Newsom, which demands clemency for Ruchell. And I'm going to be giving some links and I'll also put them in the chat. So that first link to sign the petition is bit.ly/free Ruchell. The second thing you can do is to sign a digital letter, and that's also to Governor Newsom. So you'll find a digital template of that letter on our website, and it only takes a minute. We've written everything there for you. It should be very quick. So that short link is bit.ly/4 Ruchell. The third thing you can do, and so this is to anyone who may have the monetary means to support the coalition. You know, we would be very appreciative of any donations that people could donate, anything from $5 to $100, everything is appreciated. So we have a donation link and that is bit.ly/donate4Ruchell. And that's the number 4. So the fourth thing you can do is we want everybody on this Zoom right now to call Governor Newsom's office and let him know that Ruchell needs to be free. So we want clemency, and this is due to his length of confinement, his age, and the health risks. And so we have a script on the website as well that lists out everything that you need to say. You can call the office from 9 to 5 every weekday, Pacific time. So that phone number is 916-445-2841. And that is also on the website as well if you didn't catch that phone number. And the fifth thing you can do is if you're on this call, if you're part of an organization or you're just representing yourself and you want to endorse the coalition, there is a place on the website to do that as well. And that is at freeruchellmagee.org/endorse. So Those are some tangible things that everyone can do today. But we also encourage people to get creative. You know, if you're an artist, what art can you do? If you know people who want a phone bank and call the governor's office at the same time, are you a teacher? Can you do teach-ins? Do you have a community center to get the word out? Everything that we can do is just gonna, you know, we wanna multiply it and make it as big as possible. And with that, I'm gonna throw it back to our chairs.
Thank you so much, Tiah. We really appreciate all the work that you've put in, helping make all the beautiful graphics and, you know, helping put out the word about this. We got to get the word out. We're so thankful for everyone who's joined us for today's program. It's been an honor to host, and of course, just so many rounds of applause just to everybody who's helped make this work. And of course, we just want to reiterate, July 15th, 2021 marked Ruchell Magee's 13th parole denial. So last December marked 40 years since he was first denied parole in December of 1981. This man is now 83 years old, incarcerated 59 years just in California, and you can add the other 8, of course, in Louisiana. And we believe that the parole board's decision to delay any chance of parole until he's 85 years old is shameful, atrocious, and needs to be reversed immediately. So that's why we are doing this. That's why we're here. The urgency is really appreciated from everybody because time is not on our side. We don't have 3 years, 4 years, 6 years to wait. We have to do this work now. We really appreciate everybody who's come out to speak. And I just want to share a brief quote from Ruchell, who said, "Slavery 400 years ago, slavery today, it's the same but a new name." And he understands, just like we do, that whether it was Africans fighting captivity back in Africa or Africans fighting captivity in California, oppressed people have the right to rebel. So that's why we call it a free Ruchell Magee. I'll pass it to Virginia just to close us out.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, every single person who spoke on our program today. Thank you to everyone who joined in as listeners and guests. We appreciate all of your support, everything that you have done to help us, to help push forward the effort to free Ruchell Magee and all political prisoners. Tiah gave some suggestions of efforts, activities that people can do to help push this forward. I would also like to suggest that here in Los Angeles or wherever you are, to support your local reentry organizations. There are organizations that assist people who come out from behind the walls with housing, with getting monetary support. So here in LA, there's some organizations I'd like to mention. One is called A New Way of Life, and the other is All of Us or None. Both of those organizations here in LA have been very active in supporting people who come out. New Way of Life has helped lots of women who have come out to reestablish themselves once they get back into society. The other organization has been mentioned several times, the Jericho Movement. The Jericho Movement has been very actively involved in the issue of political prisoners for years. So we should continue to support the efforts of the Jericho Movement. We need to get our political prisoners freed. And it was mentioned earlier by Dr. Abdullah, and she said that Cameron actually mentioned that on her program this morning, that if we hesitate and if we don't get this movement where we're freeing political prisoners, at some point we are all going to be political prisoners, and we need to deal with that. America is becoming more and more oppressive. The right wing, the white supremacists have been emboldened by their president, Donald Trump. And we have now even bigger fight on our hands. So we need to do something, and we need to keep organizing on this effort. So with that said, we've come to the end of our program. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute success, and I'm really happy to have been a part of it. Thank you so much.